Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about a surprise. I mean, this conflict between Iran and Israel is full of surprises. The beginning of it was a surprise. Then the United States joining it was a sudden surprise. And then the way it ended suddenly after 12 days is also a bit surprising. So, Donald Trump on his Truth social media announced that a ceasefire had been agreed upon between Iran and Israel. Uh, uh, until now, actually, neither the Iranian government nor the Israeli government has confirmed by issuing statements that they have agreed to a ceasefire. At least I haven't seen it. At least, I mean, I checked about 20, 10, 15 minutes ago, and I have not seen that. But Donald Trump has made the announcement. JD Vance was on Fox News talking to Brett Baer about it. So the Americans are going gung ho. They are clearly under the impression that there has been a ceasefire agreed upon by both sides, and they have already announced it. So, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, this is the second ceasefire in the context of nuclear powers that he has announced, and he seems pretty thrilled. Let me read out to you the tweet that he made, which will kind of give you an idea of what he's talking about. So, if you look at this, let me zoom in a little bit if I can. Yeah. So in this, he's saying, congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in progress final missions. For 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire. And upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. So, one thing that one can notice is these days, Donald Trump remembers God quite a bit in the context of wars, I guess. His previous announcement after he announced the America's bombing mission over Iran's nuclear site, there was a lot of talk about God in that statement too. And once again, you see him invoking God in such a great context. But this time he did not talk about making Iran also great again. But anyway, so this is what Donald Trump says. What is critical to understand from this is that this is what is going to happen 6 hours from the point that he announced, he tweeted. Iran would start a 12-hour phase in which it would not conduct any operation. So basically, for 12 hours, Iran will not fire anything towards Israel. And then after that, after observing no action from Iran for 12 years, then Israel will remain quiet for 12 hours. So I'm wondering what happens in the first 12 hours that Iran is not supposed to shoot, but will Israel be allowed to continue shooting Iran for 12 hours? Because Israel's 12 hours begin after that. So, anyway, if neither has shot for 24 hours, then it will be concluded that the ceasefire has really taken place, and so they will go forward. Now, the question really is what are the terms of the ceasefire? We know what is the ceasefire? Okay, fine. If they haven't shot at each other for 24 hours, then we will know that there is a ceasefire, and then we can go forward and assume that the two countries have basically put an end to immediate hostilities. But there are pending issues, and some of these issues, JD Vance was on Fox News, and in which Brett Baer asked him, so what happens if you have watched my video about the 7 critical issues which will determine what will happen going forward? One of the issues that I identified was what will happen or what has happened to the 408 kilograms of already enriched uranium at 60% that Iran had before the conflict began. Iran actually has about 9,200 kilos of purified uranium, but it is not at that level. Of that 9,200, only 408 kilos are at 60%. And apparently, the density of that is so huge that 400 kilos can be in a small backpack or a medium sized backpack. Yes, it will be very heavy to carry, but it occupies very little volume, so it will be very easy to hide. So basically, when Brett Baer asked J.D. Vance what happened to that enriched uranium, J.D. Vance basically dodged the question and said that's not the question. The question is, going forward, Iran is not going to be purifying any more uranium, and so the threat of Iran becoming a nuclear power, according to the Trump administration, now has disappeared, and so they are going to move forward and try to go about. So as far as Iran is concerned, the price for Iran is not nuclear weapons. The price for Iran is end of sanctions. So when do the end of sanctions begin? That is the key question as far as Iran is concerned. Do they get rewarded for the ceasefire? Obviously not. So what is going to happen now is that Donald Trump is going to basically say that these two countries will have to negotiate directly or through intermediaries and moderated by the United States. So Steve Witkoff will be the czar of these negotiations. Now, the question is not very clear whether the negotiations will be between Israel and Iran or the negotiations will be between US and Iran. During the war, Steve Witkoff basically communicated directly using WhatsApp with Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister. So this whole business of negotiating through three parties, not meeting face to face, all that rubbish has to end now. They have been talking directly already, so they have talked directly and indirectly also during the ceasefire negotiations. So I think probably the United States will also negotiate. I think it is in the interest of Iran to negotiate, I think, with the US, not with Israel, because Netanyahu, I'm sure, must not want a ceasefire. Netanyahu probably wants to continue this in order to continue to weaken the Iranian regime and hope that it will ultimately lead to some kind of regime change. That is the ultimate goal that he has had for Iran. Trump wants a victory. Trump wants a victory in foreign policy. And there is no bigger foreign policy victory for American politics right now than to basically eliminate the nuclear threat that Iran has posed. And so if Donald Trump can tell the American public that I ended the nuclear threat of Iran, that Bill Clinton, that G.W. Bush, that Obama, that Biden could not essentially take care of, then he becomes a major hero. He'll be a legendary historical hero. And definitely a very strong candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think there will be a huge campaign. If this deal is made, and if Iran and Israeli relations and Iran and US relations are normalized, like going back to as it was with Obama's JCPOA, and of course, as far as Iran is concerned, that will also include basically relief from sanctions. So if that happens, then this is a win for Donald Trump in a big way. This will be a win for Iran also, and perhaps a win for Israel too. But it's a big win for Donald Trump. I think if they are going to give a Nobel Prize to Donald Trump, they must also give prizes to the Saudis and to the Omanis, maybe MBS and the Amir of Qatar, and maybe the Omanis also, but the Qataris and Saudis definitely deserve a share of this Nobel Prize because it was the Saudi foreign minister who was the main conduit through which the Americans were dealing with India as well as Pakistan, and they were also talking to them directly, but it was also through the Saudi foreign minister that the final ceasefire between Pakistan and India was mediated. And so if the Qataris were also involved in this mediation, there is no doubt about it. In fact, the Qataris were attacked. The last thing that has happened in the battle so far was the Iranians attacking the US base in Qatar. But what the Iranians did was they clearly signaled ahead of time that they were going to target this particular base. And so the base was evacuated, and the Qataris were ready, and they blocked most of the missiles. And so there are absolutely no casualties. Nobody died, nobody got injured. And most of Iran's missiles that were launched at that were blocked. And I suppose Iran basically threw some junk at that. The idea was not to cause damage. The idea was just to say, okay, we also retaliated against American bases as we have threatened in the past. So Iran got a kind of a face saver, and Donald Trump surprisingly has just accepted it and said, that's fine. Thank you very much for letting us know ahead of time, and did not retaliate, even though the US had threatened significant damage if Iran was to target their bases. But since they see this as a fake attack, they are not really taking it seriously. Whatever it is, I guess I don't know who the Iranian regime thinks that they are fooling with this fake attack, but nevertheless, they can claim that we did attack a US base in the Middle East. And maybe they are demonstrating capabilities to the Arab country that yes, we have the capacity to attack US bases. But the question now going forward is this: well, what will happen going forward? What will happen if they can't locate the enriched uranium and 408 kilos? And if the United States has not fully damaged Natanz and not fully damaged Fordo, then that 60% can be very quickly enriched to 90%. Apparently, it's very quick from there onwards. The amount is not very large. So 400 kilos of 60% becoming 400 kilos of 90% enriched uranium and ready to be weaponized could take just a few weeks. So for a few weeks from now, Iran could have the material to make 8 to 10 nuclear weapons. And given the fact that they have been attacked, why will they not? They would be stupid not to pursue that option unless there are some negotiations before the sanctions relief with the threat of resumption of warfare on Iran, which then comes up and say, okay, once again, you have some kind of an inspection regime, and IAEA or something else is going to come in and say, okay, we will continue to see that Iran is not repairing Fordo, is not repairing Natanz, is not building new nuclear facilities while it's enjoying a sanctions-free economy, which will grow rapidly. I can guarantee you that once the sanctions are lifted, Iran might double or even triple its GDP very rapidly. It will not have to sell oil secretly. It will not have to sell oil at a discount, which it does to China at the moment. It'll be able to sell at the market price. Not only that, Iran has very large reserves of natural gas, so it will compete with Qatar and Canada and US in exporting natural gas. So Iran will become a very prosperous and rich economy. I can tell you that if the sanctions are lifted and Iran is not wasting money on weapons building and is focusing on developing its economy, it can become double its GDP within 3-4 years. That fast. Because it will suddenly be able to go to the market and not only sell stuff but also buy stuff to develop itself. So that is the ultimate prize that Iran is seeking for. But will those negotiations go easily and quickly? Because Donald Trump has shown that he does not have the temperament, nor does he have the patience for prolonged negotiations. And the Iranians seem to like the prolonged negotiation. Even if they want to say yes, they will just sit up on it for a few months and then finally say yes. And that's how the JCPO went for years and years of negotiations. So we will see how these negotiations go and how much this war has so much of intelligence and air dominance over Iran. The balance of power clearly was not in the favor of Iran in this case, but Iran did also show that it does have some technology, it does have some offensive capabilities, it has hypersonic missiles, it can penetrate Israel's much wanted Iron Dome. Israel has this multi-layered defense system, and Iran has demonstrated in the last 12 days that it can penetrate that and cause serious damage. So if you look at some of the photographs coming from Tel Aviv and Haifa, it looks as if it's Gaza. And not only that, Iranians have also hit IDF's headquarters, they have hit some air bases, etc. And so Iranians have learned as to what works, what does not work, and so have the Israelis. So I'm sure the Israelis will, with the help of American tax dollars, my money, and American weapons, they will rebuild their defense systems and adjust to what Iran was doing. So they're quite an innovative country, Israel, technologically. So it will be a much stronger country very soon, thanks to, I'm sure, billions of dollars which private citizens from the U.S. as well as the U.S. government will be sending to Israel in the near future. Now the question is, can Iran as rapidly develop a defense system as well as rebuild its offensive capabilities and also adjust to what it has learned about Israel's capabilities? There are two things that are fundamentally missing in, or three things you could say, in the Iranian defense apparatus. It does not have an air defense system, number one. And number two, it doesn't have an effective air force. And number three, its intelligence is no match to the Israeli intelligence. Israel was operating inside Iran. Israel launched drones from inside Iran to hit Iran's defense systems, air defense systems, etc. So those are the three areas in which Iran will have to develop. The question is, will Iran prepare for another war right away? Or will be there negotiations in which Iran says, okay, we have had enough of warfare for now, let's focus on economic development and also on legitimacy. Let's make our people happy. So that's the decision for the Iranian government to take. And for the Iranian elite, there is a new elite because most of the generals of the IRGC were killed. A lot of Iranian regime leadership was decimated by Israeli attacks. So there's young blood in charge, which is in a way quite good, I think. And let's see what new vision they have for Iran. Now the question really is, with Donald Trump, what does he do? Is he going to be meticulously involved in the security of Israel and every little tiny concern that Netanyahu has with regards to Iran? Or is he going to be, well, he's going to gloss all over it and say, well, I want to win. I want to win. And so Iran has agreed for a ceasefire. Great. And so let's just move ahead with this business and put an end to this mess. I don't want a prolonged warfare. So the question is, what does Iran really do? So I have one or two more points to make, and then after that, I will read your comments and take your questions. Um, One more question is that how are Russia and China going to react to this sudden ceasefire? Because the US has come out of this with zero losses, and Trump is very happy about it. He has done something which no American president tried. He used the B 2 bombers. There was so much talk about it. And the military operation was also quite spectacular, really. 37 hours of flying by the B 2 bombers, which were refueled in the air, 125 additional fighter jets in air, not a single bullet fired by Iran in its defense, because part of it was stealth, part of the operation involved decoy, and they bombed Iran's most prized nuclear assets. And not a single, even a BB gun was not fired at America. There was those shots fired at a U.S. airbase in Qatar, but Iranians called in ahead of time, and so it was just, in my opinion, there's no other way to characterize it as a fake attack by Iran. It's a face saver for Iran with regards to its own people, I guess. But will its people believe that this was a serious attack? Iran should have attacked a base which was come as a surprise to the US or whatever. But that's one question going forward. That how are Iran and China going to, Russia and China going to look at the United States? Because this is going to embolden Donald Trump, definitely. Donald Trump is now riding high. He thinks the US has huge capabilities, unchallenged might, an army that no one can stand up to, and an ally in Israel. So yes, Israel has basically systematically decimated Iranians' capabilities, damaged Hezbollah, damaged the Houthis in collaboration with the UK and the US. Israel has allies which stand with it every day in action. The US was defending Israel. Yes, it was alone this time, but many countries have come forward to actually defend Israel with their rockets, with their airplanes. France, Britain, Jordan, US, but no country actually stepped forward to defend Iran. Iran had to face all of these countries all alone on its own, and it's to its Iran's credit that it did not crumble. It was not just it's like Russia; it's fighting the entire West. Not just fighting Israel, it's fighting the entire West, just as Russia is not fighting Ukraine, but fighting NATO also. So the Iran also faced the might of the West, and yes, it didn't come out on top, but it did have symbolic and psychological victories and real effective victories by causing genuine damage to Israel, which no one else has caused in the past, and showing capabilities that it can cause severe damage. There are reports from think tanks in Europe that Iran did not actually use some of its most lethal missiles, which it was saving, I guess, to engage with the US. So there are still stockpiles of anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 intercontinental ballistic missiles with long range capacity of more than 1,000 miles. So it is possible that Iran is still very powerful. And I'm sure the Israeli intelligence and the US intelligence has a much clearer picture of this. But for now, Donald Trump is happy, remembering God, invoking God, and he's probably also looking around in his bedroom or his study and imagining where he's going to place the plaque, which says Donald J. Trump has been awarded the Nobel Prize for blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so those are my comments that I wanted to share with you. Now, I will be happy to read your comments and your questions. And so WKS 2016, why was the Palestinian state condition was not included in the ceasefire deal? I mean, that's a question for the Iranians. The Iranians, the ceasefire is just about the ceasefire. The negotiations will continue later for a comprehensive peace. The Palestinian state is not what Iran really wants. That's not its number one priority. Like I said, the number one priority for Iran is relief from sanctions. And I think that will be the most important thing. Negotiations about the Palestinian state will be between Israel and the Palestinians themselves. Iran does not represent the Palestinians. And most of the countries in the region have always said that Israel will have to negotiate with the Palestinians. And Israel has said there is no Palestinian partner because, Fatah and Hamas were divided. But so that will not be a condition at all. Iran is not going to fight a war for Palestine alone while the Arabs continue to support Israel directly or indirectly. Osama Khalidi Saab, Train Studio, the end of Iran's nuclear program. I don't know. I don't know what comes out of the negotiations. Will there be an inspection regime? Or not, because Donald Trump can simply renege on all his promises. Keep that in mind. He has destroyed Iran's whatever facilities exist that we know of. Are there more facilities? Can Iran quickly rebuild those facilities? What if Fordo is not fully damaged and Iran can replace it or rebuild it in the next 2-3 years and fortify it more now that it knows what capacity the US has? So I'm not fully sure what is that it's an end of the Iranian nuclear program, because what happened to Iran right now should motivate Iran more to pursue nuclear weapons than not. So I think Iran will have to balance it, the need for lifting sanctions, and then also the need to make sure that it has a deterrence against two countries which are both nuclear powers, which hammered it for the last 12 days. Sama Khalidisa, what if Iran makes Israeli nukes the issue? Iran can try. There are people who have tried to bring this issue up, but There were countries like India and Israel which never signed the NPT, so it never became an issue. And so Iran chose to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and therefore its nukes and its nuclear program became such a big issue. So, I mean, they can continue to raise the issue without support from the United States. It's not going to go far further in the UN Security Council or anywhere else. Not only the US, but the Europeans will also support Israel on this issue. And a non-nuclear, let's say this is not, let's say a moonshot that somehow Israel is defanged, then the burden of protecting Israel becomes even more severe on Western countries. So they are not going to do this. They are happy to have a nuclear Israel and assume that Israel can defend itself from most countries. So that is not going to be an issue. And if Iran makes it a condition, then it will lose the ceasefire and you'll be back into action with them fighting with US and Israel. Does Iran want to enter an endless war with US and Israel? Look, the US was at war with Iran yesterday, and I went to see the movie Mission Impossible. Nothing happens to the US. Yeah, maybe the deficit will go up a little bit. Inflation might go up a little bit. Those kind of things happen to the US when it goes to long term war. But people in Tehran had to leave the city and run away. So, why would Iran want to be in a war like that endlessly? For what? For pride? Whose pride? So, I'm not very sure that Iran will raise issues that it did not raise in JCPOA. When Iran negotiated it, Iran wants a deal like the JCPOA, but with more guarantees now. So, in the JCPOA negotiations, Iran never raised Israeli nuclear weapons issue. Anti-imperialist, but then the real issue begins for the world. If the ceasefire is real, then Trump just learned his tactics of intimidation work in foreign policy. Oh yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Trump is going to be very emboldened if this thing works. He is going to think that America is invincible and American power is invincible, and he's going to poke his nose in more further issues, and then maybe he'll think, okay, now let's go back to North Korea. Let's check out Taiwan. Taiwan, can I bring about peace in Taiwan? Will they give me 2 Nobel Prizes in the same year? Those kind of things are going to pop in his head. Obama got one. Can I get two? One for the Iran-Israel issue and one for Taiwan-China issue. I don't know how he's going to look at it, but right now you can see the mood is very triumphalist, and the US feels as if it's on top of the world. At least Donald Trump feels so, especially since Iran did not retaliate in any serious way against American targets. So the threat of a very severe attack did work as a deterrence against Iran. Part of it is because Iran was already hit very hard by Israel for 10 days before this happened. So I'm not sure whether that is going to happen anti-imperialist, but Trump is going to be really intolerable going forward. One of the countries that might have to face the brunt of his obnoxious triumphalism will be India, because he's going to now say, see, I made ceasefire with you and Pakistan, and now I made ceasefire here, and I'm not very sure that India is going to come back again and again and say no, no, no. He's already said 16 times that he has done that. um, so next time there is a meeting with Narendra Modi, he's going to say it again, and Modi will have to come prepared, either to get into a fight with Trump or keep quiet. Mohit Suri, will the ceasefire hold? Well, that's a very good question. Will the ceasefire hold? Let's say hypothetically that the ceasefire is done, a deal is done, and Narendra and Donald Trump does something very unusual, like flies down to Oman or Muscat and takes a photograph with with Netanyahu or with a senior Israeli leader and Abbas Araghchi or something like that. A photograph for the future that people can talk about. And then a week later, Israel gets intelligence as to credible intelligence as to the location of the 400 kilograms of enriched uranium. Will Israel then be tempted to say, oh no, we need to go after that? Forget the ceasefire, forget Donald Trump. That'll be an interesting moment. Whether, in fact, I was thinking of an idea to write a new simulation on foreign policy. Probably that will be the idea to write. So the dilemma is for Israel will be whether to basically stab Iran and the US both in the back and then go after that enriched pile. But I don't know. In that, I'm just speculating that. Kabir Operation Rising Lion, Operation I Can't Fight Alone. Yeah, that is true. Israel can't fight alone, but as long as America is the most powerful country in the world, and America is willing to support Israel more than any other country is willing to support Iran. Look, Iran is a member of SCO. Iran is a member of BRICS. Iran is a friend of China, Russia, India. Who came to its help the way the US went to Israel's help? Nobody. Ashish, I want to know what Iran have to give up to negotiate this ceasefire. Well, Iran had to agree for the ceasefire. One, Iran is going to be not firing missiles, the first country to actually stop shooting. That tells you where the balance of power is. And then Iran doesn't have to give up much, but Iran has to accept the reality that it has lost its nuclear program. That's what Trump is suggesting, isn't it? That Iran now does not have a nuclear program. And so, in that sense, Iran has to give up its pride for this peace. WKS 2016, why not Iran come out of NPT like North Korea? Yes, they can come out of North Korea, but then the sanctions will remain. Like I said, keep in mind that the sanctions have really, really stifled the country. Iran doesn't have an air force. Iran doesn't have a proper airlines. Nobody sells planes to Iran because of the sanctions and the secondary sanctions that Trump has threatened to impose more sanctions on top of this. So the ultimate prize for Iran is to come out of entirely out of the sanctions regime, and that will not happen if it leaves the NPT. I want to know what Iran. Okay, Adil Ghasuddin. Now, how will Benjamin Netanyahu escape? No con. Oh, that is. Israel has many problems as a result of this. So now, for the last 30, 40 years, Israel has been using the excuse that Iran has a nuclear program to do a lot of nasty things all around it and justify it as Iran is defending itself. Now that there is no threat of Iran completely eliminating Israel, then the Western countries don't have to pamper Israel that much. So Israel is going to have difficulty justifying a lot of things it does, which violate international law and norms by saying that, oh, we are under threat of nuclear annihilation. This is an existential battle for us. So that is going to go away. The other thing is, unless it finds another country to attack for some reason, Netanyahu will now have to face the music at home. And that is why it is quite possible that if anybody breaks this ceasefire, it will be Israel and not Iran. Israel may lie that Iran did this or that when Iran would not do it. Like when Trump pulled out of the JCPOA, US intelligence agencies were very clear that Iran had not violated any of the terms and conditions that they had agreed to with Obama. It was the US which was in violation of the agreement with Iran. And most of the European countries, all the European countries agreed with that. And so this time round, Israel will probably accuse Iran falsely of some breach, and then some shady people from the Western countries who work for IAEA or others will say, "Oh yeah, that is true," and then the Western media will start basically go into disinformation mode, and then Iran will have to face essentially another breach by Israel and Iran. So I think that unless Netanyahu finds another country, it will want to continue having hostilities towards Iran. And more conspiracy theories. I don't know what that means. You should either phrase it as a question or a statement that I can deal with. You must admit it was a master stroke by Trump. Uh, well, I mean, Iran had become much, much more weaker, no doubt about it, with the loss of Hezbollah, with the loss of the Houthis were damaged. The Houthis didn't do anything in this fight. Hezbollah did nothing. So if the US had tried this stunt a month ago, or 2 months ago, or 6 months ago, then Iran would have definitely retaliated against US assets. So it would have been an expensive and costly experiment for Donald Trump. So the master stroke is not that. This is all is on the decision that Hamas took to commit that horrible attack on Israel on October 7th. And then from there, whatever demons that attack unleashed, it has completely destroyed Iran. October 7 and Israel's retaliation against Hezbollah, Israel's retaliation, the regime change in Syria, Gaza completely devastated, and now Iran's nuclear program gone. So Israel has enjoyed win after win after win after win since October 7th. And so Trump didn't have to do much. Israel did most of the heavy lifting with, of course, huge support from the Biden administration with weapons and money, and the Trump administration also. So the administration's only contribution is direct support to Israel and strengthening Israel and defending it in international forums and protecting it from international law. But other than that, I don't think there's any master stroke. But you could say that he took the decision, which I don't know if he had a democratic precedent, would that person take this decision to attack Iran's nuclear infrastructure or not? We can't say that because the circumstances are so different when Obama or Biden or were presidents. As you said, sir, or not. Anyway, so this is an interesting development, and so we will continue to watch what's going on. And as always, I will keep a close eye on this. So please subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Like this video, press the bell icon, share this video with your social political network. Try and become a member of Khanversations if you like. I just had yesterday a long 2-hour conference with my members. And it was very interesting. I got some very useful feedback, and so yes, I hope that it will be a better show going forward. And so it was also nice to talk to people who watch the show regularly. So thank you everybody for watching Conversation. I think this is an interesting and a major development. The Middle East is going to look entirely different if this ceasefire holds. The Middle East is going to look very different even if the ceasefire does not hold. Go back and look at my show in which I talk about the 7 drivers of Middle East geopolitics. So, and those arguments remain regardless of whether there is a ceasefire between Iran and Israel or not. So thank you very much for watching. I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Bye.